All right. We're going to move to the Buffalo Sabres now. So the Sabres are up next, and the next question we have is actually includes the Detroit Red Wings and the Boston Bruins. So Puck Sage asks, how would you rank Boston, Buffalo, and Detroit on their drafts against each other in the league overall? So how are we going to rank these teams? So we've got Boston, Buffalo, and Detroit. Well, Boston, it's not really fair. They didn't have a first-round pick. It was not a strong class. They don't have high picks, and that, unfortunately for them, puts them in a real bind. And, you know, the Bruins as a whole have not had great drafts lately, mainly because they just haven't had picks. Their first pick this year was at number 92. I like the picks of Beckett Hendrickson and Ryan Walsh. I think that those are good players. Kasper Nassen is a guy that could be a player down the line. He's got the size. You don't mind them taking chances on that. Christian Kostadinsky, big body on D. But I would put them. Of the three teams we're talking about, they would be last. But you look at what Buffalo did, and Buffalo would be the top team for me in this regard because they got Zach Benson at 13th overall. I had him number 8. Anton Wahlberg at 39. That was a great pick at that time. I thought he was going to go a little bit higher. I had him in the 40s in my draft class. But then also Maxime Sturback, Gavin McCarthy. Those are two of the top defensemen in the USHL this season. And also getting Gavin McCarthy, who has the added bonus of being a local kid. So you get that opportunity as well. So you get, two good defensemen there. Sturback, a really talented defender and a guy that I think is going to have a lot of time to develop into a good player. Scott Ratzlaff was one of the 6 goalies that I ranked in my top 100. He's not a big guy, but he's athletic. He's quick. He's got, some great opportunities in front of him as a junior. So I really like that. They also, took a longer-term project in Sean Kahane, and then Norin Panoka. I did not have any views of this year, but he was their pick at 205. But you look at those, and they had multiple players from the top 100. I think Anton Wahlberg at 39. That could be the guy that really pops off in this class that we would say, hey, how are we so low on him? I loved him when I saw him in November. I didn't necessarily have the desire to put him as a first round talent, but I think there were teams that were even thinking about him in their top 32. And so that's going to be fascinating. Zach Benson, meanwhile, big time player, really looking forward to that, to seeing how he pans out. But then you go over to Detroit, and we got multiple questions about Detroit, so I don't want to spend too much time on them, but they had picks in volume, and I liked, their first 2 picks were fine. Nate Danielson, Axel Sandin Pellikka, getting Trey Augustine, and they drafted 2 goalies in this class, which was an interesting move. I like Andrew Gibson, the defenseman they got out of the Sioux Greyhounds. Noah Dower Nilsson is a high upside play, so I think that they got some good players in that draft. But I just think Buffalo has more guys that I think could make a more significant impact in their future, especially Zach Benson, who was on the board when the Red Wings picked, but they went with the big centerman, Nate Danielson, instead, which I don't really have a problem with. I think it makes a lot of sense. But, for me, I thought Buffalo had a really strong draft. They were one of the teams that I gave a high grade to. You can read the full grades over at FloHockey.tv. And then Detroit, I thought was maybe a little less imaginative, maybe a little less taking swings, a little safe, if you will. And that's the kind of questions that we're going to get about them in just a few minutes. But